Hi, everyone. This is my first time doing a voiceover for a PowerPoint, so I hope it goes well. So just see the PowerPoint and hear me. You won't see me. So along with the other content in the module, I want to talk a little bit about fact versus opinion. This is where some students struggle when it comes to coming up with a thesis for their research essay. And I talked a little bit about this, how you're not going to research something that's already fact. So, for example, I gave some easy things like the sun sets in the west or it rises in the east. But I also talked about if, for example, the cutting down of the Amazon rainforest has caused irreversible environmental damage. Things that are proven through science, right? But sometimes especially in today's world of social media and fake news, something can be presented in a way so often that it is believed to be fact when in fact it's someone's opinion. So let's ask ourselves, okay, what is a fact? So if you think about it, I gave you a couple of examples. What are some other examples of what a fact may be? It could be something like, the date you were born on. That's a fact. Who your parents are, a grade that you got in a class. These are facts, right? And then what is an opinion? What do you think makes these two things different? I mean, a fact can be proven, right? We can have evidence that proves something is true. And an opinion is, often maybe a feeling about something, or maybe you've decided you like one politician over another because of the things that they stand for, some of the policies that they are creating. It's things that are what we would say are subjective, right? Like some people liking the color blue and other people hating it, right? Those are subjective. But when it comes to facts, things are objective, right? There's like there's evidence, there's statistics, and it's something that can be proven and is true. So if you actually here in the PowerPoint, there are two links to YouTube. So some of the videos, this video is about 7 minutes long. And oh, I have to go back, sorry, to my PowerPoint. And this one looks like it's about 3 minutes long. Um, but I would recommend watching the videos, okay, just to get a little more information about fact versus opinion, okay? All right, so let's talk about facts. So there's two concepts, there's two schools of thought, right? So the first one is people believe that you can have facts that are true and facts that are false, right? And so either when they're proven, it's true, or if they're disproven, they're false. So we would say a true fact or a false fact. And again, it would be objective information. The other school of thought is that only facts can be true. So if it's true, it must be a fact. And that if it's a statement that has been disproven, we don't call it a false fact, we call it a false statement or misconception. So in this case, I'm going to be going by is concept two. Okay, so that is that they are objective statements that are proven as true, and anything um, that is disproven is going to be considered a false statement rather than a false fact. So we're just taking fact out of the equation altogether if it's not true. So that kind of because that can get confusing if you're talking about a fact, because generally speaking, people think of facts as truth. So we don't even want to have that word in it if it's false. Okay. So an opinion. So it can't be definitively proven one way or another, right? We can't say that blue is the best color because someone might have evidence that purple is the best color, right? So an opinion is subjective, okay? We can't prove that white rice tastes better than brown rice. It all depends on your taste buds, right? And often with opinions, they have verbs like think, believe, feel, hope, and wonder. So if you have a verb like that before the statement, it's generally going to be an opinion. Okay, so for example, I think vaping is better for people than smoking. I believe vaping is better for people than smoking, or I wonder if vaping is better for people than smoking. So these are opinions. Okay. Now, you have to be careful though, because often opinions are presented as facts. And again, in this, day and age with social media and how things spread, we see things, and this is why we talked about fake news, right? Something is um, on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever it happens to be. And there's, it seems to come from a trustworthy source, or there's video, or there's quotes, and we start to believe it, right? And so we have to be careful. So, for example, smoking cigarettes causes cancer. So, is this a fact? Is it a false statement? Is it an opinion? Okay, so this is a fact. And how do we know that? Well, it's been proven by science that smoking causes cancer. Okay, so it's objective, it's verifiable. Verifiable. So in this case, it's true. Vaping is safer than smoking cigarettes. Now, I don't have like, I think, or I believe. So you don't always have that before a statement. So vaping is safer than smoking cigarettes. It sounds pretty strong, sounds pretty convincing, but it's actually an opinion, right? So a vape has minimal amounts of nicotine, which means it's safer. But that hasn't been proven by science yet. So this is an opinion. Maybe it's something that will be proven eventually. But just because it has minimal amounts of nicotine doesn't mean it's safer than cigarettes. It still has nicotine in it. But you might say, but yeah, but it definitely has fewer chemicals in it. So why isn't this a fact? Because it's subjectivity, right? There's no objectivity to it. Someone is making that assumption that just because it has minimal amounts of nicotine, it must mean that it's safer, right? And this is how people get kind of tricked, right? It's like, well, that makes sense. It's logical. Cigarettes have nicotine. Nicotine causes cancer. So they're dangerous. But if a vape has minimal amounts of nicotine, then that means they're much safer than cigarettes. Okay, maybe they don't cause the same types of cancer as smoking cigarettes, but there are a whole other lot of health issues associated with vaping. So to say that they're safer really is an opinion, and it can't be proven by fact. Not yet, anyway. Okay. So another one, the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine. So the MMR vaccine causes autism. This was a big thing many years ago. This is actually a false statement. Okay. So what happened was that there was a study that came out. Scientist, researcher, doctor, I think, actually came out with this study saying that the MMR vaccine caused autism, and a lot of people believed it. So this doctor actually made up the results for this study. And so in this case, it's a false statement. Okay. But now there's this vaccine conspiracy, right? So these are things you have to be careful of. And if you click, just want to make sure those work. So you can always look at the information about it, and here as well. Okay, so while you're watching this PowerPoint, you can click on the links. Okay, so what happens when the facts on one side of an issue directly negate the facts on the other side of the issue? Which facts are true? Well, that's when you have to do a little bit of digging and find out, right? And it was proven that the Wakefield study was false. Okay, so this is a conundrum because sometimes it can be confusing, and sometimes there's not always a clear answer or solution, right? So how much research do you need to do to determine whether something is true or not, right? Well, when enough people come to a consensus, come to an agreement on something, and there's no strong opposition, we can give that data the title of fact. But what do you think? I mean, Do you think that just because a lot of people think something and no one's opposing them, that we should take it as fact? I mean, I think we should still always look. We should always search. Just because, 80% of people say something is true and there isn't a lot of opposition doesn't make it fact. Just means that there's some convincing information there, right? Or maybe these quote unquote facts have been made up, right? So we have to really be critical when we're looking at the research, when you're doing your research for your essay. You really want to make sure that you're getting from reputable sources, which is why I'm always encouraging students to go to the George Brown website rather than Googling, because these are articles, they are journal articles and publications that have been vetted by the librarians and they use trustworthy sources, right? So that's why it's more reliable. Okay. So I have a little bit of homework for you guys. On Blackboard, there is a worksheet posted. It's called Fact or Opinion Worksheet. And there's some statements, and you have to decide whether the statement is a fact or an opinion, and try and explain your answer why you think one way or the other. Why is something a fact or why is it an opinion? And then we're going to discuss the answers during our next class. So I do hope that you complete it and that we can, talk to each other about fact versus opinion and why something is an opinion versus a fact. And if you have any difficulties with this concept, we'll talk about it next week. Okay. Thanks so much.